There's a very famous saying that goes, the difference between rich people and broke people isn't income versus, it's liquidity. Let that sink in for a second. Having actual cash on hand is the absolute foundation of financial survival. Because without cash reserves, one single emergency can literally destroy years of your hard-earned progress. Keep that front and center today. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and untangle this massive, glaring divergence we are seeing right now between a completely euphoric stock market and a deeply struggling real economy. We're going to look at the hard data to understand exactly why a historic financial reset is looming and what it actually means for your money.
We have to start with a quote from legendary investor John Templeton. "This time is different." Now, what's really interesting here is that these 4 words are famously known as the single most expensive words in investing. And honestly, they perfectly capture the perilous, almost blind optimism of today's market. Every single generation thinks they've somehow found a brand new, crash-proof era of wealth. But history? Well, history always tells us a very different story.
So, to understand exactly what we're facing, here is our roadmap. Number 1, echoes of the 1929 crash. Number 2, the trillion-dollar AI bubble. Number 3, America's unsustainable debt spiral. Number 4, how debt gets devalued. And finally, number 5, the Great Economic Reset. We are going to connect the dots across these 5 distinct areas to reveal how past market crashes, the current AI boom, our massive national debt, and even crypto all point to the exact same impending crisis. Let's get into number 1, echoes of the 1929 crash. If we look back at the roaring 20s, the blind optimism and easy credit of that era perfectly mirror today's economy. It's wild. Back then, everyday people were taking out margin loans to buy radios, cars, stocks, just driven by pure euphoria. Fast forward to the 2020s, and we are seeing the exact same thing with debt-fueled tech investing and massive AI hype. Right now, the S&P 500 has soared nearly 300%, while real personal income growth, what everyday people actually bring home to pay their bills, is completely stagnating. We're seeing wealth inequality at levels we haven't hit since 1929. The financial economy has basically divorced itself from the real economy. Just look at how this played out back then. In 1924, the Dow Jones started this massive, gravity-defying rally, eventually quadrupling in value. But by 1929, the music stopped. Black Tuesday hit, and it instantly wiped out the equivalent of $200 billion in wealth. By 1931, bank runs and sheer panic sent unemployment skyrocketing to 25%. When those margin calls hit in 1929, the resulting crash proved a timeless rule. The financial economy can only detach from the real economy for so long before gravity violently pulls it back down. Which brings us to number 2, the trillion-dollar AI bubble. So the roaring 20s are behind us, but a new mania has completely taken hold of Wall Street today. Meet the AI money machine. It is essentially a cyclical loop where tech giants are effectively round-tripping their revenues. Think about it like this. Step 1, Microsoft gives billions in funding to OpenAI. Step 2, OpenAI turns around, takes that money, and buys massive amounts of processors from chipmaker NVIDIA. And then step 3, NVIDIA takes those huge profits and invests them right back into OpenAI. This artificially inflates valuations across the entire board. That is exactly how you end up with a company like OpenAI being valued at $500 billion, while only making roughly $12 billion in actual revenue. It's this incestuous loop of capital that's basically keeping the entire stock market afloat right now. But here is the massive catch. It's called the data wall. This is the impending point where AI models will have literally consumed all available human-generated online content. Experts are predicting we could hit this wall by 2027, which would severely slow down technological progress. If AI hits this limit and progress stalls out, the breakneck growth that the Magnificent Seven tech companies are banking their collective $330 billion in annual spending on, it could come to a screeching halt. If the tech fails to deliver astronomical profits fast enough, this entire trillion-dollar bubble bursts. Now for number 3, America's unsustainable debt spiral. While that AI bubble is artificially inflating the stock market, Main Street is facing a very different, very sobering reality. A staggering $37 trillion burden. Yes, trillion with a T. Our national debt is now the exact same size as the entire US economy. This massive liability leaves the country uniquely vulnerable to any sudden economic shocks. It is quite literally a ticking time bomb. And we have absolutely reached a tipping point. Just look at the budget milestones for 2024. The United States is now expected to spend more money, a massive $1 trillion just paying the interest on its debt, than the $900 billion it spends on national defense. When your interest payments start swallowing the budget like that, it squeezes out absolutely everything else. Infrastructure, social safety nets, you name it, it's gone. So, enter a very crucial group of players, the bond vigilantes. These are fixed-income investors who effectively protest reckless government deficit spending by demanding much higher interest rates just to hold government bonds. If the government keeps borrowing endlessly, these bond vigilantes will push yields too high. That surging cost of borrowing could easily trigger a severe recession, breaking the system entirely and forcing the government to find an alternative, incredibly stealthy way out of this debt trap. And that leads us to number 4, how debt gets devalued.
Since the US controls its own currency, a mathematical default where they simply throw their hands up and refuse to pay is highly unlikely. Instead, there are really only 2 ways to deal with debt. Paying back means returning the borrowed value using genuine economic surplus. You actually produce more than you spend. Devaluing, on the other hand, means firing up the printing press to dilute the purchasing power of the dollar, making that massive debt much cheaper to service. By cranking up the printers to fund deficits, the government inflates the money supply. And this stealthily passes the bill directly to everyday consumers through higher prices for housing, gas, groceries. It's a hidden tax on everyone holding dollars.
Now this is where it gets really wild. What if the US could push that hidden tax onto the rest of the world? A top advisor in Russia recently highlighted this exact strategy, warning that the US is planning to export its inflation globally using a crypto cloud. Here's how it works. US debt could be secretly absorbed by stablecoins like USDC or USDT because those tokens are backed by US treasuries. As global users adopt and hold these tokens on their smartphones, they are unknowingly funding US deficits. If the US inflates the dollar, the burden of that inflation is shared globally by anyone holding a stablecoin. It effectively forces the world to bail out the American debt without them even realizing it. Finally, number 5, the Great Economic Reset. Eventually, the tension between these AI illusions and crushing national debt has to break. It just has to. And history shows us that a reset happens in one of 2 ways. Look at the 1930s. The trigger was policy shifts, things like corporate tax hikes, which led to a violent asset crash that destroyed portfolios even though it eventually dropped wealth inequality. But now, look at the 2020s track. The trigger is likely a tech bubble bursting combined with massive debt devaluation. The consequence here? A quiet, covert wealth transfer through prolonged inflation that just steadily destroys your purchasing power over time. So, whether the reset is a loud, violent crash or a quiet, creeping devaluation, the system will balance itself. And that brings us right back to where we started today, cash and liquidity. Most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, just riding the wave of an inflated economy. When the music stops, and it will stop, having emergency funds and liquid capital won't just be some nice advantage. It will literally be the difference between surviving the reset and being completely wiped out by it. Which leaves us to ask the most important question of all. When the music stops, where will your wealth be? And are you prepared for what comes next?